semifinals. Defending champion John Force is strapped inside his dragster. A 7,000 horsepower Mustang, burning nitromethane jet fuel. John and challenger Al Hoffman are at the starting line. They're off. The men blaze down the asphalt at 300 miles an hour when suddenly John's Mustang veers off course. Smashing to a stop in a cloud of dust and debris. Look again at this devastating crash. Seconds into the race, John's engine explodes, engulfing the cockpit in flames and shredding the tires. The demolished dragster careens across the track, nearly colliding with Hoffman's car. The chassis disintegrates as the high-performance racer slams into the guardrail at top speed. The mangled wreckage skids down the pavement, with John still trapped inside. And finally, overturns in the dirt. John's crew fears he is dead. But as the dust settles, there's a miraculous sight. He's alive. John's pit crew rushes to him as he kneels beside the charred vehicle. Remarkably, he suffers no serious injuries.
I was black.
The final staging procedures completed. And Force has another blower explosion. This time the car is on fire. Down the racetrack he goes. He attempts to burn off speed, gets close to the guardrail. The car continuing to burn, the cockpit filling up with smoke as John Force tries to get that car stopped. The in-car camera just dissolved into nothingness as the flames hit it. Force trying to get the emergency hatch open on the roof. He does. He comes up out of the cloud of smoke, pulls off his gloves, and starts to get off the race car. He appears to be okay, but incredibly, looks like he's taking his time. Now he is helped off the top of the burning car as the fire truck arrives on the scene. Let's go back and replay and live it once again. As John Force neared the finish line, at that exact moment, the supercharger let go. He rode out that burning ball of flame all the way to the end of this very lengthy racetrack. From inside the car, you have an opportunity to see just what John Force coped with. There was the explosion, and here came the fire. Continuing well over a half a mile into the shutdown area, John Force was battling his race car and the flames all the way. The fire consumed our onboard camera. You know how hot it had to be as Force fought back with all the talent and skill he had. As the car neared the end of the racetrack, he was able to get it stopped. He got out under his own power and is okay.
John Force crawls out of a blazing inferno to celebrate winning the big shootout with John Gardella, one of the people that have been behind this team. Force,
Keep it off the fence.
you might have just spent 50 to win 50.
Was that good or what? Yeah. Okay. I only bumped the guardrail once. It's okay. You okay, man? And I used the fire bottles. Good driving. All right. You got him this time. And I had my foot out her when she blew. Tell him to do the same thing.
John, you've been living with this threat of fire every run for 2 races.
Exciting, ain't it? Hey, scary. The only thing I was worried about, you know, I got a brand new car here sitting in Prudhomme's shop, but I didn't want to use it. This thing's just a real hell raiser, and I couldn't get it off the fence. It was right on the fence. I only touched her once. It didn't get into the chassis. NHRA and their deal saved us. Bud Shootout, Castrol, Jolly Rancher, Wax Shop, Easy Wider, we're earning our paychecks.
going in right away. There goes Jack. John's right behind.
Oh, what a race with John Force. Gets a big explosion. Jack Beckman goes on. He wins back-to-back. And John Force is on fire as he rolls to a stop.
Car's still burning. John in there can't see where he's going, just trying to get this thing stopped. You see the roof hatch come up. I'm sure he's got the fire bottles on and got the fuel shut off and getting out of that hot race car right now.
Well, John is out of the race car. You see the concern of all of his family back at the line. John holding the top up so they can get in there and minimize the damage from that engine explosion.
Well, I tell you what, that car was flying before it exploded. Jack Beckman had the advantage off the starting line, but boy, John run some very good early numbers before that thing erupted. Was probably, had it made it to the finish line, was going to drive around Jack Beckman, but the key is you got to go to the finish line.
You know, Mike, that was exactly my thinking until I saw the flash and realized that John Force was in trouble. Boy, what a day for this whole team. Go back and take a look at that run. Keep an eye on John Force.
You take a look at Jack had 300ths of a second advantage off the starting line, but by half track, and John had already blown up at half track, and he was already made up 500ths of that run. You saw the sparks fly out of the exhaust. I don't know if it just pitched an intake valve or something and caused all those sparks to go out and then just blew the engine up, which we've seen that happen numerous times in these fuel engines. It drops an intake valve. Saw a little bit of a fire underneath at first, but boy, a big flame there. And that thing was really charging too. Tough break, but give credit to Jack Beckman and that team. They had a good race car all weekend.
And credit to John Force. He got this thing back under control and drove it to a stop, climbed out of the car, and then assisted in fighting the fire. Let's go to the far end, Gary Gerald. Tell you that because during the second round of Funny Car, there was a serious accident that involved Kenny Bernstein and John Force. John Force over there on the right side, Mike Dunn.
You're going to see Kenny Bernstein going to cross over the center line, send some parts and pieces over there. But what happens was a tire went down on John Force's car, it appears, and when he pulled the parachutes, it just ripped the back half of that chassis off. He is over on the right side of the wall. You see the remainder of the car, the front half of it, sliding down the guard wall in the right-hand lane before it comes to a stop in the sand trap. Take another look at it. You're going to see Kenny's is ahead at this point, but it drifts over, hits the blocks. And what happens when the chutes come out right there, you're going to see the chassis where John is off to the left. The other part of the chassis slides over into Kenny's lane. You see John right there as it came to a hard stop against the wall. Very frightening incident at that point.
And we'll look at it one more time as Kenny Bernstein drifts toward the center line, catches the blocks, and then all of a sudden it begins to disintegrate.
Right there, that's John right there. He just pulls the back of that chassis right off. The front part of the chassis goes into Kenny, drives both of them into the wall, and then the bodies are shedded. At that point, Kenny see with both chutes out, he's getting that thing back under control safely. The rest of John's car sliding, like we said, against the wall, and then the part where John is parked over into that left-hand wall.
Kenny Bernstein was shaken up, but okay. And as of 6 o'clock local time, we have an update on John's condition. He will go into surgery tonight at Baylor Hospital. He has a compound fracture of his left ankle. This comes from the team. His right knee has an abrasion all the way down to the bone, and therefore some possible tendon damage. John's left wrist is dislocated and broken, and he has abrasions and broken fingers on his right hand. They did give John Force a CAT scan, and it has come back negative. That's the latest on this situation. Now we begin our tape-delayed coverage.
for Cruz, 311.41. But John Force.